Hello and welcome to a Tulsa World virtual town hall meeting looking at the COVID-19 pandemic in Tulsa. Our forum today is sponsored by the George Kaiser Family Foundation and the University of Tulsa Oxley College of Health Sciences. We thank both of them for their continued support of community journalism. I'm Wayne Green, editorial pages editor of the Tulsa World. Our two panelists today are Tulsa Mayor G.T. Bynum and University of Tulsa Professor of Community Medicine and Psychiatry, Dr. Gerard Clancy. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to say something to the people of Tulsa as we face this huge challenge. First, Professor Clancy.
Well, thanks, Wayne. This is really a unique time for all of us. And we're in a unique situation where our actions today, citizen by citizen and really as collective as a community, are realized 2 weeks from now. And so it's really important for us right now to be thinking, where do we want to be as a community? Where do you want to be individually 2 weeks from now? Do we want to be gaining ground on this, or do we want to be losing ground? So our personal decisions right now are really, really important right now for the collective of our community. Second thing I want to say is just a great deal of gratitude for all those people that are on the front lines, from healthcare to our law enforcement, to those working in corrections, to those serving us food, to those in the United Way agencies. Just thank you for being out there during a tough time like this. And a lot of courage out there. Third thing I want to say is that this virus is a new virus. That's why we call it a novel virus. And it's tough. It's a tough one, and it is something that we've not seen before, and so our immunity as a human race is not great for this virus, and so it's coming at us pretty strong and pretty hard. It's spread very easily from person to person. It does last on surfaces for a while, and for a small percentage of our population, this virus puts them at great risk for a severe pneumonia that needs intensive care unit care. So it's an obligation for all of us to be thinking about those people that are vulnerable. What actions can we take as an entire community to protect those people, to protect our healthcare system, and really to make those that are most vulnerable in the best position possible. And that really is through social distancing and the aggressive measures that have been put out there in front of us. It really requires a new level of citizenship for all of us.
Mayor Bynum.
Well, I echo every single word that Dr. Clancy just said. I think if I have anything to add, I would just say that this is going to require of all of us continued vigilance. I think there is maybe sometimes a sense of frustration that, okay, we've closed down restaurants, we've closed down bars, we're staying in our homes. Do we have to do this for 2 weeks and then it's over? I've not heard any public health official say that it'll be over in 2 weeks. And it's so important for all of us to appreciate why we're practicing social distancing. We're doing this to slow the spread of the virus so that we don't have a spike in contagion that overwhelms our local healthcare system. If you think of it as a pipeline, if you're trying to get everything through the pipe at one time, and in this case, we have a virus that no one is immune to, and which generally, statistically, a fifth of the people that are infected with it need hospitalization. You don't want all of those folks needing to get through that hospital pipeline at one time. And so what we're doing by practicing social distancing, by not getting into large social groups, by going to work and going home and minimizing the number of people we come in contact with, by doing that, each of us can play a part in slowing the spread of that disease and that virus, and also allow our healthcare system to work the way it's supposed to.
Thank you, gentlemen. We asked our readers what questions they wanted answered today, and the response was frankly fairly overwhelming. I want to get to as many questions as we possibly can. Mayor Bynum, I'm going to start with you. Several readers were concerned about the enforcement strategies behind the local and state restrictions on business and personal activities. As one reader put it to us, are these simply guidelines, or are they hard enforceable rules? And, if I see someone who's doing something that's clearly dangerous, What should I do?
Well, and the unfortunate answer to that question today is that it depends on who issued the order. So for local orders that have been issued by the mayor, those are being enforced by the Tulsa Police Department. And I will say that we've had really good compliance on these to date. When we issued last week saying that restaurants could only do takeout, bars needed to close, entertainment venues needed to close, we had about a 12-hour or so period of time that word on that needed to spread around town. But when we had any complaints after that, Tulsa police would go out and meet with the business owner. Most of the time, they hadn't even heard about it, and then they immediately closed. And we have not had any continuing concerns about people not complying with that. People generally understand the importance of putting the safety of our neighbors ahead of others. The challenge that we've run into, just I'd say in the last 48 to 72 hours, are on the state orders issued by the governor, because there's to date been a lack of clarity for local law enforcement on what we're supposed to do. And so we've been, the Tulsa Police Department and our legal department, the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office, have been working together trying to get clarity on that. I know that's a common question from other mayors around the state. To date, the guidance we've been given by the governor is really up to each community on what you do. And as far as how you enforce this, that's hard for a police officer on the front line to be making that kind of a judgment call. And so we're going to be looking at what we can do, what kind of infrastructure we can put in place locally to make that more of a local order. So it's very clear for our police officers on what they need to do. But the last thing for those, the question was, if you see something that's being violated, if you see a business that shouldn't be open that is, if you see a social gathering of more than 10 people, if you see people using playground equipment or parks in the way that they're not supposed to, you can call 918-596-9222. Again, that's 918-596-9222, and that'll take you right to the Tulsa Police Department.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Clancy, you've worn a lot of hats in your life, but your first profession is as a psychiatrist. I thought one of the questions that we got from a reader got to a point that several people actually raised in different ways, which is it's an issue of feeling like I'm in control of my own life. How we're in a situation where there's a lot of things that we normally could do that we can't do anymore. What can you do that you feel so that you can be safe, but feel like you're also controlling your own destiny?
You know, we Oklahomans love our independence. We love to be able to make our decisions for ourselves, and so the sense of control right now is lost a little bit. But this is a special time where our destinies are really intertwined more than they probably ever have been across the entire city. And what decisions I make really can determine somebody else's destiny, and what decisions they make can determine my destiny as well. So it's back and forth right now. So I think where people need to think long term. This is a short-term, long-term type of scenario that if we take care of things in the relatively short term, as GT said, you know, it's not going to be done in 2 weeks. But if we think about things over the next few months, where can we be over the next few years on this? It really needs to be where it is. And so in the meantime, you know, understand the facts, put some structure to your day, practice social distancing, do the right thing so you can feel like you're contributing to the cause. Take a break. Don't be overwhelmed by all the information that comes. Do the usual physical and mental self-care things that we know we should do and you need to do. And make sure you stay connected. Make sure you stay connected. My brothers and sisters, I have 6 brothers and sisters, are living all over the country. We had a virtual cocktail party on Saturday night. and it was great. It was really good. So just, be creative, think of different ways to do things. Our usual way of life is going to be disrupted for a while, and that's okay. That's okay.
Mayor Bynum, another theme that I get in the questions from our readers was what metric are we going to be used to know when we're there, when we can start going back to life and normal? When do you sound the all clear?
Well, I think it's very important for people to understand that is not a decision that an elected official is going to make in a vacuum. We're really lucky locally that we have a city county health department that is independent. It is, thanks to the citizens of Tulsa, it's funded independently. It has its own board of directors. And that liberates Dr. Bruce Dart and his team to just give their honest, sincere advice about what needs to be done to keep Tulsa safe without having to worry about what any elected official thinks about what they're saying. And given that authenticity of their advice, I think it's really impressive at how much you see local leaders throughout the Tulsa Metro following their guidance. And so, I talk throughout every day with Dr. Dart and his team, and am always talking with them about hearing what do we need to be doing from a city standpoint to protect Tulsans better. And I've talked with him about, how do we know what the other side of this looks like? To the point of the question, when can we think that maybe we see a light at the end of the tunnel? And their answer to me is that it's the best idea that you can get a grasp on it is it's when the number of infected people who would need to be hospitalized is less than what would overwhelm our hospital system. And by overwhelm our hospital system, I mean having enough PPE, enough ICU beds, enough ventilators. And so once we get to that point, and again, you're talking about a fifth of the people so far who are being infected with this need some sort of hospital care. When we get to the point where the number of people who are infected in Tulsa that would need to be hospitalized is less than what would overwhelm our hospital system, then I think you would start to see a gradual return to normal. But again, I'm not thinking about this in a term of 2 weeks or 15 days or anything like that. I think that's a good way to get the process initiated and started and people used to what an adjusted lifestyle looks like while we go through this. But the modeling I'm seeing is that this really doesn't peak in Tulsa until probably mid-May or so. And so we've got a ways to go on this.
Dr. Clancy, recognizing that you're not an epidemiologist, and I want to respect the boundaries of your expertise, but as a physician, I need to pose a question to you that came to us from readers in a couple of different ways. As one reader put it, the virus, appears to survive on hard surfaces, and because there's this feeling that people are getting it who've not been exposed to those who have it. If there's no personal contact, how can someone get infected? Explain to us, how do you get this disease and what do you need to avoid it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's a lot still not known about this virus. And so I understand the question. And we do know that by far and away, the most common way that it is spread is through person-to-person contact. In fact, every person that gets infected on average in Wuhan, China, infected another 2.5 people as well. So that is the exponential way that this is spread. But you do need to be careful in these other areas as well. That's why hand washing, that's why scrubbing surfaces and keeping things clean is really, really important as well. Because there is some ability of this virus to live long term on some surfaces. We've got protocols at our house already that make sure that we're keeping the house very clean, that new items that come in the house, if we can spray them down with stuff, we do. We spray the mail, we spray the newspaper just to make us feel a little bit better that at least we're getting after some of those things that maybe if it is moving around that way, that we're having a handle on it.
Yeah. Mayor Bynum, an awful lot of the focus has been on things that people can't do, which is, feeds into the thing that I was speaking with Dr. Clancy about, people feeling a lack of control. I wonder if you could just talk for a few minutes about things that we can do.
No, I mean, I think it's important that we think about this not in the context of everything we can't do, but in the fact that it presents an opportunity for us to just live differently than we're used to. It gives us an opportunity to break out of our normal routines and try something out different. And so, things you can do. You can still drive all over town. You can still go for a walk with your family. I will tell you personally, all of a sudden not having a charity dinner to go to every night, I'm having a lot of dinners with my kids in between work that doesn't seem to stop at this point in time. You can still go outside and enjoy yourself outside. The birds and the squirrels are not spreading this virus that we know of. It is person-to-person contact. And so if you can safely go out and just maintain a little bit of distance from the people you're around, you're going to be fine. But it really causes us to change the way that we live our daily lives. I know Dr. Clancy mentioned this earlier, and I read a great piece about how being isolated actually may help us combat loneliness in a way that we haven't been able to before, because people now are using their phones to call up folks who you may not think in the middle of a busy day to go drop by and see. But if you're in your house all day, you can get on your phone and call loved ones and FaceTime with them. I also read that that's actually preferred because if you're making eye contact with somebody, even if it's through a phone, it releases chemicals in your brain that can make you feel better. So there are so many things that I think people can do. We can continue to work. We just have to do it remotely. We can continue to support local businesses, doing it remotely or through takeout. We continue to spend time with family and friends, just doing it digitally. I mean, there's never been a time in human history where it would have been better for people to have to be isolated than right now. And because we have so much technology at our disposal. But I think that the biggest thing is to think about things that you can do around your home that you otherwise wouldn't have time to or wouldn't be able to. Now you're there, you can. But I think the biggest thing when we talk about, this notion of shelter in place, a lot of people think about that as if it's like nuclear fallout shelter in place, like you need to curl up under a desk and hide. All this is meaning is that you should, if you work in an essential business, go to work, come home, but stay home. And you can go out and walk around your neighborhood, but just don't do it in a giant group of people. Do it with the people who are in your household that you're around anyway. And at our parks, another great example. We've closed playground equipment. We've closed basketball courts, tennis courts, not because people are close to each other playing tennis, but because people use tennis courts for multiple things other than just tennis. But we've left trails open. We've left wide open spaces in our parks open, and we want people to use those. That's an important part of mental health in the midst of all of this.
Real straightforward question that fits in here in a sort of way. A reader who said he was training for the Ironman triathlon that we were all very proud of coming to Tulsa, scheduled for May 31st. Do we know if that event's going to happen or not?
I've not heard any details on Ironman on their plans yet at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Dr. Clancy, earlier I shared an email with you from a reader who seemed to be dealing with some depression. He asked if someone was over 65 and showing the symptoms of the virus, should that person bother being tested, or suggesting that maybe if you're over 65, you should just stand aside and leave the testing, the limited amount of testing supplies for younger people. What thoughts can you offer this reader?
The healthcare system is capable And actually, this person is someone that needs to talk to their physician about their symptoms and whether they're at the level that needs to be tested. And that's where your underlying medical conditions come in. But as far as us building a rationing of care system where certain people are going to get care and certain people are not going to get care, that's not happening. That's not happening. You know, I read this morning a very happy note that a 101-year-old was discharged from the hospital after recovering from coronavirus as well. So, in fact, you know what GT was talking about, hospital capacity with ICUs and ventilators. It is that age group that's a little bit older that is the most vulnerable, that needs the ICU and the ventilators and needs the testing as well. So this person absolutely needs to join into the healthcare system, get evaluated, and take it to the next step as far as what the next step is.
Sure. So the advice there is to call your physician and do what they tell you.
Absolutely. You know, everybody is different as far as where they fit on the spectrum of needing to be tested versus just being at home and writing it out. And but that's the conversation with the physician, where they take into account whether you have diabetes and high blood pressure or autoimmune conditions. All the things that feed into it are important to consider before tapping into the healthcare system, because we don't want to over stress the healthcare system. But on the other hand, we don't want to not go when someone is in need of care. And in fact, this is an illness that if you stay ahead of it, you'll do so much better even in the hospital as well.
Mayor Bynum, the local economy in large part relies on small businesses, a lot of which are closed now or certainly not operating at optimum level. And a lot of people are frankly suffering economically. So a reader asked, first of all, what can I as a consumer do to help sustain those businesses? And what resources are available publicly to help these businesses make it through to the other end?
Sure. And I think this really ties into the previous question you asked me. And, you know, folks ask me, what can I do? I say there's three things that all of us ought to be doing that each of us can control every day. Number one, minimize our human-to-human contact to slow the spread of the virus. Number two, find ways that we can help spread hope and remind the people that we care about that we're in this together. But third is, if you can afford it, to buy something from a local business every day. And there's been some great lists published online that show, you know, what options different restaurants and businesses, small businesses around town are offering. You can buy gift cards from them. We're buying a tremendous amount of baked goods at my house right now. But there are a lot of things that we can do every day to support local businesses. But there's more than just the buying power of our local economy and focusing that on local small businesses rather than outside of our economy. It's also things that we're working on and that we expect to be in place in the very near-term future. Small Business Administration is developing, thanks to federal action, a strong low-interest loan program that can help small business owners. Tulsa Economic Development Corporation that is here in Tulsa, led by Rose Washington, is also a great outlet for small business loans. And we at the city are looking at what we can do to support those. We hope to have an announcement to make on that front next week as far as assisting small businesses to get through this kind of gap period of time between where we are right now and when that Small Business Administration assistance really begins to come online. So we're thinking about it from both the larger financial aspect, but also just the day-to-day notion that every Tulsan has the ability to help our small businesses in this community by purchasing things online and remotely, and using your buying power to help keep our economy lifted up.
Dr. Clancy, another email that I shared with you in advance, a reader was concerned about her grandmother who's dealing with cancer and has been staying at home for 3 weeks, but is also dealing with the signs of depression. And she asked, what can she help her grandmother do without potentially exposing her to infection?
We're living this in our family as well, and so what we found out to be helpful is making sure that those social contacts are there, and they're a lot, not just 5 minutes a day or anything like that. It's a lot, and so as many loved ones that can join in and staying socially connected, that is great. We've seen great pictures of children visiting their parents in nursing homes and talking through the windows, just keeping them connected. But you touched on something and that is depression. And about 50% of clinical depression in America is stress related. And we are going through a significant stress right now. Our brain is picking up on that there's danger. It's sending out hormones to our body, to adrenaline particularly, to fight or flight, but it's also sending out a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol can push toward depression, and it can also push down your immune system. And so if there is a depression there, it's actually important physically as much as it is mentally to have that evaluated as well. And what I'm impressed by with our mental health system is that there's many different avenues into our mental health system that are new, as GT talked about. The Tulsa Area United Way, you go to their website, they've got all the 60 different agencies there. Those agencies have ramped up a different version of what they do, but they're still doing it in an incredible way. I've seen telepsychiatry now. I'm doing telepsychiatry to be able to keep distance, but at the same time stay connected with people. So there are ways to make the connections and get the healthcare you need without, or in a very different way.
Sure. Mayor Bynum, I'm going to give you the final word here. In the past week or so, I think you've probably done some things that you never imagined doing when you first ran for mayor. And there's a lot of frightened people in the community today. What message do you have for them today?
The other morning I was dealing with the crisis of the moment, and my wife came over and put her hands on my shoulders and just started patting me and chuckled to herself. And she said, "And being mayor was your dream since you were a little kid, and now you get to do it in the middle of a pandemic." I think the big thing I would say to Tulsans is that this moment is absolutely a challenge. There's no question that it is. But we are uniquely prepared to deal with a challenge like this because we routinely have to deal with challenges as Tulsans. We live in a city that's in Tornado Alley, that is afflicted by ice storms, that is historically afflicted by flooding. We're not even a year removed from having 2 tornadoes and an earthquake hit us while we were flooding. And we get through those things. And we seem to be surprised by ourselves at the end of that, by how calm and resolved Tulsans were. But I think it's because those things happen with a level of frequency that we have become prepared for mentally dealing with and having to adapt to challenging situations. And each challenge is different. And this is certainly unprecedented for us in the modern history of our city. But what we find, the common link in all of those things, is that we get through them by working together. And I can tell people I have a unique vantage point as mayor right now to see the way this community is working together. And it is remarkable. I've never seen the city of Tulsa work so closely with our suburban neighbors. I've never seen a city of Tulsa work so closely with Oklahoma City on a daily basis. The city and the county are working hand in hand on this on a daily basis. And then you see philanthropic efforts combined with the business sector. And throughout our community, there are people working together, taking this one day at a time to get through it. And we will. It won't be easy. It will be a challenge. I don't think people appreciate what a challenge it'll be right now. But it will be. But when we get on the other side of it, we will have gotten on the other side of it because we work together.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our readers have too. Before we leave, I want to thank our sponsors, the George Kaiser Family Foundation and the University of Tulsa Oxley College of Health Sciences, which coincidentally is accepting applications right now with generous scholarship money available for qualified candidates for Doctor of Nursing practice program. So there's a needed field, right? If you like today's effort, please share links to it in your social media. We're planning additional virtual town halls as we speak, as the community continues to deal with the issues surrounding COVID-19. So please let us know what questions you have and who you'd like to see answering them. This is no doubt the greatest social challenge that most of us have ever faced in our lives. There aren't any simple solutions, as we saw today, to the issues we're going to have to deal with in the very near future. But we know that acting out of fear or superstition is not going to get us anywhere. So stay informed, stay safe, and stay healthy. I'm Wayne Green, editorial pages editor of the Tulsa World. Goodbye for now.